Welcome to Tilma, our monthly podcast that dives into all aspects of my 7-year pastoral plan on evangelization, from exciting community events around the diocese to a deep dive into the 10 hopes Pope Francis laid out for us in the Jubilee year. I'm Bishop John Dolan, your host, and today we are going to talk about the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem. That's a lot. And the unique role that they play in the Holy Land. And I'm joined by Denise Scalzo, who joins us from San Diego. Thanks for flying out for this. And she's a Holy Land counselor, so you'll hear a little bit about that. And then Tom Castellos, who is our Phoenix area counselor. Mm-hmm. And then we have Julie Knackard, who is a member and past Phoenix counselor. So very active members. They roll up their sleeves and make things happen here. And so you're probably going to want to know what is the Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem. And then so I'm going to ask you that. Well, what is your mission and what's your ministry? Any one of you.
Bishop, as you know, we started in 1100. We were originally helping the war situation in the Holy Land as in the Crusades, but really since then we become a peacekeeping force. We became a Papal Order in the 1300s, and we continue to serve as required to help the mission and the benefit of the Holy Land.
Well, I myself have been a part of that too, and I've had the joy of going to the Holy Land and really getting to know the order, but also the way in which you serve the people of God. But tell me a little bit about the history of that order. You kind of briefly touched on it, but maybe a little bit more.
As Tom mentioned, the order's mission was really to preserve the shrines of the Holy Land. Mm-hmm. And with that came the people around it. So when Christianity started expanding through the Holy Land, one of the things that happened is pilgrimages started. And they needed some safety as they went into these different areas because it was a very dangerous area at the time. So from then, we've had patriarchs, Latin Patriarch, which is our church, of course.
I like our guy, Pizza Balla. It sounds really good.
Yeah.
He's young, he's enthusiastic. Yeah. He certainly knows Hebrew. He understands. He was the custos of the Franciscans for 12 years and then became the pro-administrator, but also now the Latin Patriarch, and really has a leadership role within the Middle East. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to see a young cardinal who understands really the region, and he isn't afraid to speak out.
Right, yeah, indeed he isn't.
So protecting, educating, feeding the basics, that's what our order is supporting.
Yeah, and I know it changed over time, but what attracted you, Julie, what attracted you to this order, but also kind of the cause?
I really didn't know what it was. A long time ago, it was kind of, you were invited by the bishop, which I was, and I didn't know much about it. And then one of my first meetings I went to, there was a priest from Nazareth spoke. His family had been in Nazareth 800 years, and he was not allowed to go say Christmas Mass in Bethlehem.
Isn't that amazing?
And that was my very first meeting that I went to. And so I started learning about how it sounds easy. We're keeping Christianity alive in the Holy Land. Right. All those words sound like they go together. Right. But it's not really that easy.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we know that some of the sales of the various olive wood carvings goes to really help preserve that Catholicity or that mm-hmm. Christian identity there, and it's a really important piece. But tell me, what is it that we're actually? Can you give a few examples of some of the things that we do, Denise, there in the Holy Land, or like some of the locations, or
sure, some of the orders are, or not orders, but projects. We give microloans to people who can't afford to start their own business, but we fund them and then they return the money back, so another person. So it evolves completely. We have a program where we support the seminary and the seminarians, and each diocese, we have 9 dioceses within our Western Lieutenancy, usually tries to sponsor a seminarian. That's really important. Hogar Dios Niños, that's a place where children with great disabilities, we go and we have there. We started the medical mission with one of our doctor members, and COVID hit. Right. And so now just the challenge of getting it back on track, and we talked to the chancellor at Bethlehem University, and they've now switched to have a free clinic inside the university. And then just getting pilgrimages back once things get a little more stable.
Right. And we were always taught that a pilgrimage is not a vacation. So when you're actually going there, the whole concept for the Nights of the Holy Sepulchre is really to make it a prayer vigil, a prayer moment. And so talk to us a little bit about that. What does that mean, that concept of the pilgrimage?
Pilgrimage is really a holy trip. And in our order, we try to see the 7 holy places in the Holy Land, and we make sure that we go to pray, to go to the places where Jesus and Mary walked and wept. We are able to greet the people and make times for breaking bread and saying prayer together, going to the parish masses in Bethlehem. They bring us aside and they want to visit with us because they know we're on their side. So they like that they have the order from all over the world, but in particular the Western Lieutenancy, to support them. So a pilgrimage ends with meeting the Latin Patriarch, and Pier Pizzaballa gave me my pilgrim shell, and that's one of our highest awards, is to get that as a recognition that we've been there to pray and support.
What was your favorite part of the Holy Land? I'm sure there are many pieces, but what was your favorite part of your pilgrimage?
You know, I've been there several times, but easily my favorite part, well, they call the people the living stones. So every time you meet a person, it reminds you that it's not just the buildings, the churches. But I love, because a priest leads your pilgrimage, and watching a priest walk in the footsteps of Jesus, seeing a priest that you've known for years change just with that one, I'm going to call it a dynamic, but it's the Holy Spirit,
right,
really coming. So I love watching a priest change during a pilgrimage.
That's great. It's the concept of the living stones, and it's really more than just the place to visit. It is an experience. It's kind of like the Camino, walking the Camino, right? It's not just the area, but it's the experience that happens and changes a person's life.
Well, and you have, like, the Garden of Gethsemane for me, the first time. I mean, everybody has a spot where something happened, but you can, when you're there at night in the garden, and it's just, it comes, you remember what the Bible is about. You don't need a reminder to remember, but it comes to life.
It comes to life. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, one of my favorite spots is the Sea of Galilee. Partly because once you get into the city and you, apart from the Garden of Olives, trying to make your way through the city, it's hard to really picture what it was like when Jesus was walking with his cross and all of that. But kind of what you see is what you get there at the Sea of Galilee, which is what I like about that. Tell me a little bit more about that experience, Denise. How you've been out there to Magdala, maybe, huh?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was just in Magdala about 3 weeks ago, and it's pretty magnificent. There's excavations going on the Legionnaire side and the Franciscan side, and they realized the obelisk there is the main center of Magdala. They're finding canals where they used to tie the boats up. They're finding all coins, pottery, and so on of the life that was happening at that time. So I think it's really a privilege to go back and be able to see how they lived and understand the first century cultural time of Christ and what it means to us now in this century and so on. So, as you say, it comes to life looking at the Sea of Galilee and looking at what Christ was looking at.
Right.
You know, and hearing Scripture saying, and a storm came up, and you're thinking they were fishermen. How did they not know?
Right.
But there's a mountain there.
Oh, yeah.
So things become, more
now you understand that. Yeah,
exactly.
that makes sense. Yeah. We had a storm when I was actually on the water, and I said, boy, you cannot bring the gospel more to life than this. And as soon as we were talking about it, someone said, let's say a little prayer. And as soon as we said the prayer, the storm ended. It was really quite beautiful. But now, in this post World War and all of that, we've seen a whole, the building up of the Holy Land in some ways, and the tearing down of the Holy Land. That's been a constant war and so on. And here we are in the midst of that war, which has prohibited really many of us from going to the Holy Land. You just can't take a pilgrimage there. The Knights of Columbus, or Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, are still trying to make an impact. And how is it that we are able to do that, even though these borders are closed and you're just not able to get your way through?
So I was going to give you just a little bit of statistics so people understand. So for instance, in Gaza, 92% of all dwellings and 69% of roads have been demolished. The blockade has been going on since March 2nd, so there's no electric, no medicine, no food, no water. Most hospitals, schools, and universities have been demolished.
Yeah.
And 1.9 out of 2.2 have been displaced. That's just Gaza. So you go to the West Bank, and there's 180,000 people that have gotten their permits revoked. There's 805,000 students that have been affected by the movement.
Right.
They have 199 barriers and 900 checkpoints.
Right.
So that's the challenge for them. And for us, as the Latin Church and us supporting the Latin Patriarch, I'll just give you some of the youth activities. They support 8,000 youth in 58 groups. Summer camps, they serve 50,000 in 32 parishes. Scout activities, there's 3,450, 10 in Palestine and 5 in Israel. The migrant support is 5,000 in a community. There's 94 baptisms, 3 communions, and 8 weddings in the midst of the war.
Wow.
And the Patriarch and us are really helping them concentrate on internships and job creation. If it wasn't for the church, truly, whether it's the Latin Patriarch together with the Franciscans, these people would have nothing. And they understand that, and they're so grateful, and that's what our order does. We support whatever basic needs that are needed there too.
And that's really the kind of the thing that puts somebody over the top when they join the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre, because it's not just making a visit, because people can make a visit and make a pilgrimage. But when they see the impact that they're having on people's lives, it's a game changer for so many people. Definitely. Tell me about one of your best experiences there.
Oh gosh. Best experience for me was to be locked in overnight in the Holy Sepulchre.
Oh yeah.
So here you've got Calvary, very elegant and very amazing. You've got the place where Blessed Mother wept, and the Armenian side, and then you've got the actual empty tomb, the gloriously empty tomb. Yeah. And sitting in there all night, you're not allowed to sleep. They nudge you if they see that you're nodding off. Finding the facilities is a challenge, but eventually you find them. And just praying every hour, there's another part of the church that comes alive.
Yeah.
So the Greeks do their thing, the Russians theirs, Franciscans get midnight, and just going to each part of this enormous historical gift to our church. And all of a sudden, it's 4 a.m., and the Armenians do their last thing, and at 5:30, I think, or 6, the doors are allowed to open. And it was just beautiful seeing the dawn after that whole 12-hour event.
Well, and that's such a beautiful piece. And then the people of God there are beautiful, and it just sort of breaks my heart. I mean, what was your reaction when all of this started to blow up, and really you knew that people weren't going to be able to go to the Holy Land?
I had just finished the Camino and had reached Santiago del Compostela on the day that everything kind of broke loose. And I just went, this is going to be really hard on everybody.
Yeah.
And it has been. Everybody. Not being able to make a pilgrimage for someone in the order is really difficult. It's part of what we do.
Pope Francis, enjoying the beatific vision, said in this Jubilee Year of Hope that hope is not in vain. But one of the hopes that he had listed roughly 10 hopes for this Jubilee year, and one of them was a hope for peace over division. How do you see that we would ever be able to get to a place of peace? Who needs to be at the table, apart from politicians?
Well, we all do.
Yeah.
We all, yeah.
Yeah, the church provides the even ground for the discussion to happen. For Pope Francis in his Easter message mentioned that we need to pray for Israel because of the anti-Semitic. But he also spent time talking to the Palestinians every day in Gaza. So his hope was to bring all the people of the Holy Land together, and I think the Latin Patriarch is ideally situated to do that.
Yeah, I think that the whole piece is just going to be. It's laid upon us to make sure that we are about that and speaking up for that. I'm sure that's something important for you, Denise. Huh?
Well, I'd love to quote Cardinal Pier Battista, the Latin Patriarch, for ending decades of occupation and its tragic consequences, saying that this was necessary for a serious peace process. He stressed the roots of peace are spiritual, and I'll quote him. It was on the cross that Jesus won, not with weapons, not with political power, not by great means, nor by imposing himself. The peace he speaks of has nothing to do with victory over others. He won the world by loving it. It takes courage to be able to demand justice without spreading hatred. It takes courage to ask for mercy, to reject oppression, and to promote equality without demanding uniformity while remaining free. And I think that's what we all, as active members of the Holy Sepulchre, really pray for.
Yeah, because I'm sure there are times when you say, gosh, what can we do? And that is exactly what you can do. I remember once a priest say to this one person who was dying, she was an elderly woman, and she says, I don't know what God wants of me right now. I mean, it's like, when is God going to, take me? And he said, why don't you just focus on Jesus on the cross? Because he was not bedridden, but he was cross-ridden, and he could not move, but he moved the world, right?
Beautiful.
And the most saving time was when he was upon that cross.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we're dying and when we're stuck and we can't get over there and do our part, sometimes that's God's way of saying, okay, I've been on the cross too, and I helped change the world. So I think that's a really important thing. And I thank you for joining us today for this Tilma. Tilma itself is an acronym. Of course, we know that it was something that Juan Diego wore on his cloak, right, and as of Our Lady Guadalupe. But Tilma is an acronym for Testifica, O Iglesia a la luz del misterio de amor, or Testify, O Church, to the light of the mystery of love. And boy, we have members here who are doing just that. You're taking ownership of that testimony, testifying to Christ, who is the light. He's the light and that's the mission that we're all called to embrace. So I invite you to join us again for Tilma, and please subscribe and like and provide your comments below for future episodes. We'd love to hear from you. Have a blessed day.